Welcome to the Burnout to Lit Up podcast. I am your host, Erica Del Pozo, occupational therapist, certified health coach, CEO and founder of Joy Energy Time, Miami girl, and pineapple lover. In this podcast, we provide the resources on how to deal with stress, burnout, and anxiety, how to get energized, find true satisfaction and alignment in your life, and more. You will learn how to slay your burnout beast and go from burnt out to a lit up life. Let's do this. Hey there, Polar Bear, and welcome to episode 3 of the Burnout to Lit Up podcast. Today, this is going to be an interesting episode because I will be talking about stress and weight gain. And it's important to talk about because we are all dealing with stress to some degree. And some of us, unfortunately, because of being exposed to chronic levels of stress, are dealing with unwanted weight gain. So I'm going to go into the different aspects from a physiological point of view and emotional point of view of what are some of the things that can be contributing to that unwanted weight gain because of stress, and empower you so that you have the knowledge and then you can make better decisions or take better control of your stress, and then indirectly that can help in the long run to keep off that unwanted weight gain. You ready? Let's go. Today's mini fun fact is my favorite de-stressor, which is practicing handstands. I just started doing it 3 years ago for fun, and I was really bad. I would practice against the wall, and over the past 3 years, I have fallen, and it has been difficult, but I've gotten to the point where I can hold it for about 30 seconds. So it has taken a lot of patience, a lot of time and perseverance, but this is just something I'm doing for me. And I feel like just practicing handstands is a huge stress reliever. So if you want to try it, give it a try. But I suggest that you practice against the wall first. Okay, so diving into today's topic, I want to start off with a few years ago, I started to sell fitness programs online, and I made online fitness groups. I loved it because I got to hold people accountable for their fitness journey, for their healthy eating and their exercises. And I loved having that group and that community. It was such a huge part of my life. And fitness and nutrition still play a huge part in my life. But my focus as a business owner has shifted to really focusing on helping people deal with stress and burnout and everything that comes with it. So I am an occupational therapist, and I love to believe that I approach things holistically, like I do in my practice at the clinic and in this business, Joy Energy Time. How I approach stress and burnout is from a holistic perspective. So if you are stressed and burnt out, or you are suffering from anxiety, and again, I want to hit on the fact that my focus here is actually mostly targeted to the workplace. So stress and burnout from work and anxiety from work, and that is going to affect all parts of your life. Physically, emotionally, mentally, your quality of life, your well-being. So if you are experiencing a lot of stress, particularly from work, for example, and because of that, it has impacted your mental energy, and you feel like you need a sugar fix to stay awake, and it impacts your choices. And stress can impact so many different things, and your relationships, how you take care of yourself, your mood, your happiness, how much time you have to your time management. So maybe your time management isn't the best, and you're feeling a lot of stress because you're rushing and trying to meet those deadlines at work. So there's a lot of different things that can be contributing to your stress and burnout. And the outcomes of that can be all over. So if you are experiencing unwanted weight gain because you are exposed to chronic levels of stress, then I do care about that. And I do want to talk about that because I am holistic and this is something that I know people are struggling with. So let's get into the physiological aspects of what can be causing this unwanted weight gain. So when cortisol and adrenaline are released, the liver produces more glucose, a blood sugar that gives you the energy for the fight or flight, just in case of an emergency. But for most of you, if you don't use all that extra energy, then the body is able to reabsorb the blood sugar. And your body keeps on pumping out that cortisol as long as the stress continues. So guess what? That can make you very hungry. And that extra blood sugar can mean diabetes for people that are vulnerable to type 2 diabetes. So the thing about stress is that our fight or flight response saved our lives when we were early humans, because in case of a real emergency like a tiger or a lion that's about to eat us, then it gives us the energy to fight or flight. But now what is causing the fight or flight can be your inbox, can be your boss screaming at you, can be anything that is considered not a life threat, but our bodies and our brain perceive it as so. So it's causing us stress, and we may be staying in a prolonged state of stress. So that's where the fight or flight, that whole thing comes in. According to Alyssa Apple, PhD, a researcher on stress eating at the University of California, San Francisco, she states, "We crave sweet, salty, and high-fat foods because they stimulate the brain to release pleasure chemicals that reduce tension. This soothing effect becomes addicting. So every time you're anxious, you want fattening foods." So with the adrenal glands pumping out cortisol, production of testosterone, which is your muscle building hormone, that actually slows down. So in the long run, you have lower muscle mass and you burn fewer calories. So that's what stress can do to you in the long run with all that cortisol. And you don't want to burn fewer calories. You want to keep your metabolism high. Cortisol also encourages your body to store fat, especially the visceral fat, which is the fat that surrounds your organs, and releases. So what happens is that releases fatty acids into your bloodstream, which raises your cholesterol and insulin levels, and that leads to the potential for developing heart disease. So not necessarily related to weight gain, but being exposed to chronic levels of stress can lead to heart disease and other breakdowns in the body. So nobody wants that. Ain't nobody got time for that, right? So those are just like basic summaries of the physiological effects of stress. I mean, I took physiology years ago. So that's just a quick little summary. So now I'm going to dive into the emotional components of it. So, okay. Raise your hands if you have ever eaten because you've been stressed. I mean, I think 100% of people can raise their hands. Or have you ever reached for a glass of wine? So, speaking of wine, I have a funny story about that. I was so stressed when I started my very first job as an occupational therapist, especially that first month. I was exhausted, and I told my coworker I need a wine of glass. And it didn't hit me that I said that. And she's like, "You mean a glass of wine?" So yeah, I was so stressed I couldn't even say a sentence correctly. So yeah, that goes to show you what stress can do. Okay, so imagine just at the end of a long and crazy day, you want that bowl of ice cream, you want that glass of wine, and all those things can be really appetizing, and of course they can be effective, but only in temporarily soothing our exhausted and stressed selves, because eating sugars and fats releases opioids and dopamine in our brains, signaling in our limbic system to produce very powerful behavioral reinforcement for actually both acquisition of drugs as well as yummy foods. So it makes sense that the calming and soothing effects that you feel when you eat that yummy bowl of ice cream and other comfort foods is a real thing. It's almost like an addiction, and breaking these habits can be equated to breaking a drug habit. So when I am stressed, I definitely notice like I just want the sweets, I just want the goods, and the more I have, the more I want. If stress becomes chronic and you learn that eating is going to soothe your stress and it's learned as an effective coping behavior, then all these yummy foods may appear to be addictive. And that's a slippery slope. I have a story about that. When I was super stressed in one of my occupational therapy jobs. I say that like I had so many, but I've only had 3. I'm in my 3rd one. But the one I had before, I've been in OT for 4 years, so I've moved a little bit. And in the second one I had, that was where I was experiencing extreme amount of stress and burnout. So my way of coping was going to Dunkin' Donuts every morning and getting one of those big iced coffees and those munchkins and hash browns. And coming from someone that's very health conscious, I got into a habit of doing this every day because it made going into work easier. Like going into work with all that sugar I swear it made me feel like this. It gave me this like false sense of belief that, okay, I'm coming into work, it's going to really suck, but I have my yummy munchkins and my coffee. I love Dunkin' Donuts, but I was getting into the habit of getting way too much there every day to the point where they knew my name and they knew my order. So when you get to that point at any place, it could be a good or a not so great thing. That was my experience with kind of relying on sugar to make me feel better because I was so stressed about going into this very chaotic and hostile environment. Okay, so let's get back to this study. According to Adam and Epple, in a 2007 study, repeated bouts of minor daily stressors may keep the stress arousal system chronically activated. Yikes. So cortisol tends to be higher on working days than weekends. I wonder why that is, because we have to work during the week. This low but chronic, keyword chronic level of stress may modulate appetite and food intake in ways that are only very loosely related to what we actually need, the calories that we actually need for survival. According to another study, I'm pulling out so many studies. According to Wallace and Heatherton in a 2004 study, cognitive control of food intake is an important mediating factor in the stress-eating relationship, and this is accounted for in such transactional models of stress. Okay, in this study, they talk about 2 different types of stress eaters. They talk about the ones that are restrictive and the emotional eaters. So the emotional eaters tend to overeat in response to the negative emotions. In the process of stress eating, your attention is shifted from the negative things that are causing the stress and towards the immediate stimulus. So food, thus disinhibiting intake in restrained eaters because they're restricting, but it promoted overeating in those susceptible to emotional eating. They found that stressed emotional eaters consumed more sweet, high-fat foods and a more energy-dense meal than unstressed and non-emotional eaters. Wow. So, dealing with your stress via emotional eating is going to most likely lead, this is just an assumption that I'm making, but it's going to lead to unwanted weight gain because you are consuming and you're craving more of that sweet, high-fat foods because it makes your brain feel good. And it makes you feel like you're dealing with the stress, but you're really not. That's how I was when I was getting Dunkin' Donuts every single day. Okay. So with all that being said, what can you do? If you know that, okay, I'm exposed to a lot of stress, so I feel like all the physiological things I talked about, if you feel like, okay, that's probably going on, then it's time to take a look at how to de-stress. And B, if you're emotionally eating and you're using that as a coping mechanism, then you need to figure out, okay, yes, I am aware. This is what I do. This is how I cope. You have to admit it to yourself. And I have actually two freebies for you about this. And at first I was just going to share one, but they're freebies and they're both really helpful. So I'm going to share two of them. The first freebie is 5 creative ways to de-stress. So, okay, maybe you are dealing with emotional eating, or you could not be dealing with it, but you know that you need to deal with your stress because you're feeling the consequences of the stress. It's taking a toll on your mind and your body, and you need creative, just different ways of de-stressing. So I have a cheat sheet, 5 creative ways to de-stress. And I think they're very powerful, simple yet powerful suggestions. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So you can go check that out. That freebie is on my website, joyenergytime.com. You go to the freebies tab and it's right there. How convenient, right? So the other freebie I have is your guide to emotional eating. So if you want to dive deeper into that, then yes, I have a freebie for you. In that freebie, I go into the consequences, what is really causing emotional eating. It's a little more in depth than what I just talked about here. And this is a great freebie because you get to identify what is going on and then learn some strategies that can be very helpful if you're dealing with this. So, you know what? I highly recommend both freebies. And if you are dealing specifically with the emotional eating, you know it's become a challenge for you, then definitely check out the free emotional guide to eating. The guide to emotional eating. So both freebies are on my website, joyenergytime.com, in the freebies section. So get your hands on that. Nothing's better than a really helpful freebie. So enjoy. I will also put the link in the show notes and more information about that in the show notes. So let's talk about taking care of your stress on a daily basis. And I know this firsthand that trying to hide behind the stress, behind food, or trying to not do anything about the stress, just let it be, it just makes it so much worse. And one of the things that has helped me deal with stress in one of the most effective ways possible is mindfulness. And practicing mindfulness through meditation has significantly, it's been like a 360 in my life. With my anxiety and stress, mindfulness is the number one medicine that I can prescribe. I have a fever. The only prescription is more cowbell. So let's take a look at that. I have anxiety and stress, and the only prescription is more mindfulness. Okay, I'm probably not funny, but I was trying a little too hard there. Okay, so the only prescription I can give you, because I'm not a doctor, can't prescribe you medicine, but if you have stress and anxiety, then you need mindfulness. And mindfulness while you're eating is very powerful, because if you're mindlessly eating and you don't even register, like, okay, I'm sitting down. This texture of this food feels like this. This first bite feels like this. If you're just mindlessly eating and then you're not even aware of what you're putting into your body, then mindfulness can be a great tool for you. And I have done it if I'm trying to enjoy something that's so delicious and actually eat less. Like if I'm eating some like a dessert and I'm really mindful because I'm trying my best to savor every bite of that dessert, like the first few bites are the best, and then I feel satisfied. And it has helped me just to be aware and to actually notice the food I'm eating and enjoy it more. Mindfulness also helps with my anxiety, because anxiety is about ruminating on the past or worrying about the future. That's what it is. So practicing mindfulness and getting your brain to stop in that cycle and pay attention to the present moment. I mean, that has done so many things for me. And I'm sure 10 minutes of meditating, just 10 minutes, that can do wonders for you. If you're looking for, okay, what's the first thing I need to do right now to deal with my stress, because it's taking a toll on my mind and my body, then I suggest mindfulness. I also suggest getting a journal. I have a really cute pineapple journal because I am obsessed with pineapples, but you can get whatever journal you'd like. And I have some recommendations in the show notes. I have some links from Amazon of some really cute journals. So if you need a cute little journal, then check out my Amazon links. You know, who doesn't love Amazon? That's where I got my journal from. And journaling is a beautiful thing because there's something very powerful about writing. And when I write down my thoughts and my intentions for the day, and when I write down my intentions and my goals for the year, it's getting it out of my head and making it more real, if that makes sense. So setting some time aside in your day to meditate or journal, that I think is the first step into dealing with your stress, grabbing your stress by the horns and taking a very proactive approach to dealing with stress. So here's a very obvious remedy to dealing with stress, and that is exercise. I'm sure some of you rolled your eyes because exercise is that evil word, but if you have an aversion to that word, change it to whatever makes you happy. If you want to take pole dancing classes, go pole dancing. If you want to just move and walk, do that. Like, I think people think of exercise like in the 90s where you are on the elliptical for an hour and that's exercise. I mean, like, yes, that is exercise, but that's not your option. That's not your only option. I do a variety of things, and I will get into this in another episode, but yoga has a huge impact on me and is a huge stress reliever. And exercise, in some way, it is scientifically proven it is to help combat stress. And I know plenty of people that are very stressed and that do not move or exercise. And I am telling you, like, if you have stress or anxiety and you need a prescription besides mindfulness, then your prescription is more exercise or more moving or more pole dancing or whatever it is you want to call it. You just have to get moving. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, just get moving. And I will touch on this in later episodes, but if you want to, again, be proactive in tackling stress and putting that unwanted weight gain to bay, then get some quality sleep. Yes, quality sleep. Make sure your room is dark. Leave your phone charging outside of your room. Yes, I just said that. Get an alarm clock. Those little lights on your DVR, those little red lights or whatever color they are, cover those. Okay, cover every single little thing. Even if you think it's not impacting you, it is. I can't wait to talk about that in other episodes. But get quality sleep. Focus on that. Focus on a sleep hygiene routine. Get your mind. And a sleep hygiene routine can go on for the entire day. Okay. But really what that is getting your mind and body ready for sleep. Like leaving the phone outside, dimming the lights, maybe reading and then going to bed and keeping the room cold and just getting everything set up. So that could be a freebie I do down the road. But anyway, I'm just covering the basics here. In focusing on stress and unwanted weight gain, what are some of the approaches you can take? So you can practice mindfulness, get a journal, focus on moving and getting quality sleep. And most importantly, because we're talking about one of the biggest things that may be causing the unwanted weight gain is emotional eating because you are stressed or bored or anxious. So again, go check out my freebie and my freebies. I have 2, like I mentioned earlier. So go check those out. Have a great rest of your day, and I will catch up with you later. Thanks for listening. If you want more, be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Also, share this episode with your friends, and I would be so grateful. If you feel inspired, leave a review on iTunes with an honest comment and/or what you'd like to hear more of so you can help me out on my journey in delivering meaningful content. Thanks, mis amores.